This is Jenn Snyder-Gibson, and we're coming to you live from the Brand Builder Studios in Charlotte, North Carolina with the Breakfast Club Beat. For those of you that have lived in Charlotte for quite a while, you will remember Pete Gorman as our former superintendent with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools several years ago from 2006 to 2011. During that time, he was an amazing supporter of the Hood Hargett Breakfast Club. And I've been fortunate enough over those years and today to be really great friends with Pete and his family. And we're welcoming him into our Breakfast Club Beat podcast studio today. So good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, this is so much fun to have you with us today. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
I know a lot of people don't really see you around Charlotte that much anymore. I know personally I was so glad when you did step away from CMS that you guys never left Charlotte.
No, we didn't. I loved my job as superintendent. It was a very recognizable position, whether it be from in the newspaper or the broadcast of the board meetings or that CMS news channel that shared information. But I've truly loved less of a public-facing role. It's kind of nice just to be a regular old person in the grocery store, not talking about things related to work and things like that. It's provided a little bit of separation at this phase of my life and career.
Yeah, and personally, I love having you guys here and being such great friends with you and your family. So I love having you in here today. Why don't you share a little bit with our listeners about what you've been doing in the education space since you left CMS?
Sure. So two different phases. When I left Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, I had agreed to join a big media company, News Corp. And we developed an education division for News Corp and developed a particular line of curricula. The name of that is called Amplify, and they're one of the larger digital curricula for math and English language arts in America. And I did that for 4 years and left when we sold that division from News Corp, and we sold it to Steve Jobs' widow, Lorraine Powell Jobs. And she owns it now and runs it as a not-for-profit. And it's the curricula used in many large school districts and small school districts also across America. When I left that after 4 years, I started my own consulting firm, a single-person consulting firm, and I support a lot of the large district superintendents across the U.S., and then also have the opportunity to work with some folks in some real challenged areas. I do some work in the Mississippi Delta and some of the more impoverished areas in Alabama. Our daughter went to Auburn, so I particularly cared about helping out in Alabama and areas around that. And I help school superintendents and then do things like assist school boards with being more effective in their work, leading school board retreats and things like that. And now I'm moving into a kind of a third phase, and that is phasing into retirement and working a little bit less and getting more time with family, but still very active in the work and just love what I do and still want to stay here in Charlotte because we care deeply about the community. And I'm more hopeful than I have been about the school district here and just glad that this is the community we live in and this is our school district.
I love that. I know when you were involved with us, obviously you were very involved with our scholarship fund.
Yes.
And I'm really proud that over the years we've been able to give out over $300,000 in scholarships to CMS senior student athletes.
Yeah, so I really chose to get involved with that for 3 reasons. Number one, because I was so grateful for what you were doing at the Breakfast Club and wanted to say thank you to the Breakfast Club and the members for the scholarships. Number two, because I wanted to support the students who received the scholarship and congratulate them, be there with them when they receive that, and just to acknowledge the great work that they've done. And also to go because parents came to those breakfasts to receive when their child received the scholarship. I wanted to go and say thank you to them for the great work and support that they did. Fantastic models of supporting their kids to do great things. So it was great to be involved with that.
Oh, absolutely. I always love that part of our breakfast because a lot of times it's the parents, it's the grandparents, it can be a sibling or two that are there as well. And it's just such a great moment for their family. Sonia Gant MCs all of our breakfast events now, and she does such an amazing job of making sure to highlight the family. And you can always see it every time, the pride on their face and getting that moment with their children special.
Parents are a child's first best teacher.
Yes.
And when they are able to engage and do that wonderful work, great things happen. The job's too big for school districts to do alone. It needs to be a partnership with families or other caregivers who may step in the breach if a family can't be there. So it's good to say thank you to those folks.
Oh, absolutely. So I was thinking about this morning driving in. My mom was a teacher, and I always felt so blessed growing up that the type of schedule that she had as a teacher was so perfect for family unit, right? You had your summers off. You had great blocks of time during the year to be off. And I feel like it's a great career for parents, or for especially for moms a lot of times.
It is a great career. And while it's a great career, though, I'm concerned about that right now because it's becoming a less popular option for our young people to take advantage of. And we've seen some real challenges in the respect and support of our teachers.
And I wanted to talk about that. So share with me, over the decades that you've been involved in education, like what is driving that? What are you seeing from, 30 years ago to today on why that is becoming such a challenge? Because a long time ago, people wanted to go into this industry.
Sure. Well, there's good and bad reasons behind it. Let me give you a good reason behind it. A good reason behind it was, for many years, it was nursing or education were the only opportunities for women to go into. So a good reason we're facing this challenge is that women have more and more opportunities. I am thrilled by that. The workforce is predominantly women. And in looking at that, individuals are less likely to choose the position, the field right now, because what they are saying is, I don't feel that the compensation is something that I can raise a family on. And they're also saying to us that the general respect and positioning of teachers has changed. So let me give an example. When I went to school, I had fabulous teachers, and my parents knew I was with fabulous teachers, and my parents made the tacit assumption that if the teacher called them, there was a very good reason why they called them. Somewhere along the line, over the past 30 to 40 years, we've seen a transition in that it's less likely in many cases to even listen to what the teacher has to say when they call home. And why did you do that to my child? Somehow this positioning has flipped. And that, as well as some other kinds of things, like we're seeing some political things, and that can be related to labor unions, just whole sorts of things, that the profession as a whole has come under attack. It takes head and heart to do the work. To get individuals to go into the role, we need to support them. We need to provide teachers compensation that is a livable wage. We need to provide them an environment where they can do their work in a respectable environment, where children behave, where there's an expectation. So I'll give an example. When I was a high school principal back in the early 90s, I had a moment where I was speaking with the parent about their child and some behavior issues we were dealing with. And she said, look, I do my job. I drop my kid off on time and I pick him up on time. I said, ma'am, that is not the end of your job. Your job is to partner with us for what are expected behaviors, what is expected with study habits. It's got to be a partnership. And what we're seeing less of right now is fewer and fewer individuals are willing to make that partnership. Now, that doesn't mean that's across all avenues of it, but we're seeing enough incidences of it that make it less desirable to enter the field. And a myriad of things. So let's add one. Social media. Now, Facebook pages about a particular school and this teacher and that teacher. My goodness, it's constant. And those are things that, when you enter as a public school teacher, you are doing public work. You shouldn't have a public life.
Correct.
There should be a separation of that. So it's just gotten more complex and more challenging than ever before.
So, and I agree with all of that too, because I remember my mom was getting to retire right at the beginning of a lot of this. And I would remember her coming home and talking about conversations with her principal on how we as teachers, we don't have as much control in the room anymore, and parents are becoming a little bit challenging in our space. And then we've seen where that's gone over the years. So let me ask you what...
Well, I think what it needs to be is co-partners in supporting their child's education. The parent and the school, co-partners in the work where they understand that they are interdependent. A teacher can only be as successful as a parent helps support them to be. And in many ways in educating their child, a parent can only be as successful as the teacher supports them to be.
Absolutely.
But they are interdependent.
Let me ask you this, and this is consistently a year in, year out thing. What can we do to help teachers get a respectable living wage?
Yeah, so a couple pieces that come to play there. Number one is you've got to pay attention to what's going on in your school district, in your area. So it does start with the school district and the school board, but in North Carolina, they don't have the biggest impact on that. That is the legislature. So when you are going to the ballot box, does the individual that you're voting for the state office, do they support education as a priority that should have living wages, but also supporting teachers with other legislation while still holding them accountable for delivering high-quality instruction?
Sure.
Or are they an individual who has motives that are different, as we see dollars being siphoned away for other things? And my concern is there is a narrative that a certain group of individuals are putting forward that schools are failing, therefore we should look at some of these other routes. I can't tell you a single time where I've heard of starving someone as a way to health. Never heard of that. And if you go back almost 10 years ago, the salaries in North Carolina were at the top of the Southeast region.
Really?
Now North Carolina's salaries are at the bottom of the Southeast region. Now, we are not going to compare to the Northeast where cost of living and some other things, but regionally, we should have a comparable salary to other areas for what it takes to live and thrive and be successful to enter the field. And that has slipped over time. We've seen dollars redirected from schools to other areas. Thank goodness in Charlotte, over the last 3 years, the county commission has fully funded the superintendent's budget request.
Yes.
The leadership from the county commission has been superb on that. So you need school board locally, which does great work and holds the superintendent accountable to run an effective and efficient operation, provides support for teachers. You need a county commission that's willing to support education and step up with dollars where available. And then you need the state level support. And the state level support has not been there over recent years. Now that's one path. Then running parallel to that, there's another piece. That's the State Board of Education, the state superintendent of schools. And we are blessed that the state board is led by a local Charlottean, a Charlotte native, Eric Davis.
Yes.
He is
Love Eric.
Brilliant leader. He was chair of the board when I worked in Charlotte. And Mo Green is the state superintendent of schools. He is fantastic, just rolled out his strategic plan with the direction. Love his focus on early literacy. And under Chairman Davis, the board, early literacy has been the focus. That should be the North Star. All kids reading on grade level by the end of third grade. They're focused on the right things. Now they need the support of the legislature to fund high-quality instruction.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Eric Davis and Mo Green. It's great to see them in the positions that they are right now. I think I recently had a conversation with Eric, and he was able to share with us the academic excellence plan that they have put together to see North Carolina at the top by 2030. And I was able to share that recently with all of our members. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. It's robust. but I think it's really obtainable.
You've got to have a plan to know where you're going.
Yes.
And they've laid out a plan with year-by-year benchmarks to get there over the next 5 years. Now, along with that plan, we need some support with the funding to help get there. We also need the local school boards and school districts and superintendents to do their part of the work, be accountable for producing results, because we have to remember the public schools are funded by reaching our hands into the individual wallets and pocketbooks of our taxpayer.
Sure.
So we got to be able to see a return on that investment that we're delivering quality. So individual boards need to hold the staff accountable for that. And then the school districts need to bring in the finest teachers, use those dollars as a recruiting tool to bring people in. We shouldn't be having people choose to go just across the state line to South Carolina to earn a higher wage, can still live and enjoy all the wonderful things about Mecklenburg County and Charlotte community, but go work somewhere else and still enjoy those things. We need them here working with us, particularly since as well, we do have a we do have a larger accumulation of kids living in poverty right here, particularly by the urban core in some of the areas that do have more poverty. And every teaching job is not equally challenging. Some jobs are more challenging than others. And let me give an example of what I mean. Poverty is actually not our biggest challenge. It's the aggregation of poverty. When you have a classroom with 1 or 2 or 3 students who've grown up in poverty and may not have had access to things. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean poverty is destiny. Kids
Absolutely.
can certainly do great things who grow up in poverty, but there are other challenges they bring. When you have a classroom where all 20 students or 25 students may not have had access to certain things, that's more challenging. So in areas with this aggregation of poverty, we've got to make sure our most effective staff go there. Who wants to go there when you are being compensated with a wage lower than other areas?
Sure.
So I want you to take on the hardest work, but we want to compensate you less for that.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
what do
tough
we do
assignment.
about that?
So a couple of things. Number one is great teachers want to go to places with great leaders.
Right.
So number one, we need to recruit our finest leaders to go there. And our finest leaders then need to bring a team of those great individuals. Compensation needs to be a part of it, but we need to provide the support for them with the materials and curricula that they need, that they have the great leader who can bring the team of teachers that are there, that we can do things to engage the parents to be more involved in the schooling or the responsible adult more involved so they can be the co-partners in doing that work, the co-owners of the child's education. So there's a whole series of things that need to happen. I will tell you, the research we did when I was in Charlotte, we were working with a group out of Harvard, the Center for Policy and Education Research. They helped us with some great data. And what we learned was the number one reason why a teacher takes on a tough assignment is not the money. The first reason is because they believe in the leader of that school.
Okay, here's something I want to touch on as well. And I know we've talked about this before. Tell me the time during COVID when kids were not in school and it was in-home learning, and that gap, especially for elementary students. What are we seeing now, the delays that are coming from that time?
There's a marked COVID learning loss. And the kids who've struggled the most were students who were in their early literacy years, kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And those students that spent the most time out of school during those years have struggled the greatest. We're attempting to do things across the nation to close gaps with that, with tutoring and extra time and extra support, but those students have struggled the absolute most. And we've also learned that, again, areas with poverty have had the greatest gaps that have grown even wider with that. So in looking at that, we've learned some things. Number one is we got to get kids in school as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
So gosh forbid, if we ever have something like that again, as fast as we can get safe measures in place to return kids to school, the better, because we have such a disproportionate level of experiences from home by home that kids experience. We need to get them back in school quickly. The other piece we need to look at is targeted interventions, is the phrase we use. Children who are struggling from that learning loss, we need to get them extra support right now. We need to have them have access to the most effective teachers. We may need to provide them more time. Now, let's be clear. It's if you think about someone once told me the world's worst restaurant review is bad food in big portions. We don't want to give them more if it's not good, but we need to give them more of high quality instruction, our most effective teachers for longer periods of time. And with that as well, I think a robust tutoring program for students to fill those gaps. And that's one thing I'm really proud Charlotte's doing. They're doing some really deep work with extended tutoring options for students.
Well, speaking of tutoring options, one thing that I love in Charlotte is the Y Reader program.
Yeah.
And that was something.
It works.
Oh, it so works. And when I lived in Charlotte, I was fortunate enough to be a tutor in that program for several years. And it is just a beautiful thing to see these kids in the summer where they would start and where they would be at the end. And they are really prepped to go into fourth grade.
If programs like Y Readers that transitions from summer learning loss to summer learning gain.
Yes.
In that program, we've got students who are ahead when they return to school of where they left school. We've got other students that don't get access to high quality programs who've slipped back during that time. So the more students we can get into structured programs like that are based on the elements of an effective reading program. We know what elements are involved in an effective reading program. We need to bring in high quality tutoring. Now, I don't mean like a daycare type environment.
Correct.
I mean a structured tutoring environment. And that's a classic example of why Y Readers works.
Oh yeah, such a big fan of that program. Touch on school safety and what is that doing to the mindset of kids and what is it doing to the teacher?
So I'll touch on it from a couple different avenues. The first piece is if you don't feel safe as a teacher, you are not delivering the most effective instruction because your whole you is not there.
Correct.
Same thing goes for students. If you don't feel safe, you're not fully engaged in the process. So a couple things come to mind. Number one is individual parents setting the bar for what their expectations are for their children or individual caregivers. What is my expectation for you for your behavior at school? It starts there. It can't be I drop you off on time, I pick you up on time, I'm done. It's I've got a set of expectations for how you behave. Starts with that. The second piece is clear and consistent rules by the schools that teacher to teacher follow through and use those clear and consistent rules. Next piece is support from the school-based leadership that they're going to follow through and they are going to enforce those rules in a way. Then we also need to have some other partners in the work, and I hope they don't have to be major partners, but like law enforcement and school resource officers, which are very important things to have in place.
Absolutely.
But they shouldn't be the primary source. It starts with the parent, then the teacher partnering together with site-based administration doing those things. And, I think there's another factor that's impacted it negatively too, and that's social media. So now you'll see these videos of a student that's done something wrong, and instead of other kids moving away from the situation, they're moving in to film it and to post it and to sort of glamorize that. We've reached a point in time where I think social media has brought a mob-type mentality to some things, which is pretty darn negative to that.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I always say if it wasn't for the profession I was in, I don't know if I would necessarily even be on social media. Yeah. I feel like I need to use it for certain things, but there's a lot of negative.
We got to have some healthy
boundaries.
Guidelines and boundaries.
Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
How is AI playing into teaching now?
So before I talk about how it's playing into teaching, I want to point out it should be playing into parents' thoughts and caregivers' thoughts because jobs that you may think your child is being prepared for might not exist because AI will do those things.
Yeah.
So with that, teaching is going to change fairly dramatically because of AI. But to be clear, the first most important thing is still a caring, effective, competent teacher, first and foremost. But leveraging AI as a tool And we need to train students how to leverage AI as a tool, because they're going to do that when they are out in the work world. The last thing we want them to have is a non-transferable set of skills. From what I've learned in school, is not transferable to the real world. Get out in the real world, and they're having me use AI. And in school, they said, nope, you can't use AI. You got to be shut down with that. So with that, we've got to come up with some healthy set of rules and expectations for how that will operate. I think it also points out, too, another piece, and that is, as a parallel to with the AI piece, our career vocational education pieces have to step up as well. AI is not going to squeeze those positions out. We're still going to need car mechanics and air conditioning repair and elevator repair, fire sprinkler, all those things, construction trades and things like that. There's a lot of jobs that people might have thought they're going to have before that AI is going to squeeze them out, but these other fields that there's shortages in are still going to be there. So we've got to look at AI, and we've also got to look at a more robust career technical education options.
Here's something that I've thought a lot about, and I hear friends of mine talk about this with their kids as well. We have a generation now that's graduating from college straddled with $100,000 plus on college debt. And then they're going into the workforce at a $50,000-$60,000 job.
How are they going to pay that debt off with that job?
How? And then not only pay that off, but how are they going to start a family? How are they going to really grow their life and not feel like this weight is tied around their neck with debt from the very beginning? Then we've got kids that are going into trade opportunities where they're graduating, and they're graduating with no debt.
Yes.
And they're going into a job that is probably not going to get taken over by AI. And they're starting off on a really strong foot. I just wonder about that college debt for so many families.
So to start off, I think there are private universities that do a fantastic job preparing people for things. And so do our public universities. But there is a challenge when someone enters into a particular field that the earning potential is limited and the cost of getting the training so far exceeds it. So I think there's a piece right off the bat that we have to be realistic, and we've got to partner with colleges and universities for telling students, this is what you can do with this degree, and here's the earning potential for that. We've got to be upfront with it. Second piece is our community college offers such a fantastic option to knock out your first 2 years, easily transfer to a state university with virtually no debt whatsoever, and do that work where you've got 2 years knocked out. In many cases, do incredibly well and then line yourself up for scholarships for your third and fourth year.
Absolutely.
So that pipeline is incredibly important. And the State Board of Ed and some others have recently rolled out some programs too, where a common application to get into the schools and do things make it even easier to go that route. And then the other piece is we've got to somehow make sure people understand that there aren't tiers of jobs, that there are better jobs and worse jobs. So what's a better job? Well, if it is a trade, it's not a better job. A better job is one you go to college for. Well, I would propose to you a better job is one where you can be happy doing your work and enjoy your work. Second piece is you can support yourself and your family. And the third piece is you aren't so straddled by debt that you don't have the hope of a future life where you get to retire and enjoy the comforts and other things. So we've got to be realistic in how we look at that.
So we've talked a lot about some challenges that we're seeing in our schools K through 12 right now, but I want to wrap it up talking about what are some of the positive, amazing things that you're seeing around the country with education today.
Around the country, but here in North Carolina, in Charlotte, we are seeing the graduates of the K-12 system go on to colleges and universities, go on to trades and other things where they are prepared for the work and they're doing great things. They're entering the military and doing great things. I want to see us focus on the kids that are doing great things and not spend so much time on the smaller percentage of folks who are not doing the things that they need to be doing. Let's highlight the folks that are doing that great work. Let's robustly show the students who are where are our valedictorians going next? I'd love to see more on a study on or stories about here's this year's valedictorians, where are they? Let's take a look back 4 years later, the valedictorian, where are they now? Let's look at the kids who went to community college 3 years ago, now that they're in a state university in their junior year. Let's highlight those pathways. Let's make exemplars of that instead of exemplars of a student that makes a really poor life choice and gets involved in something that is harming themselves or potentially even harming others. Let's highlight the positive things first and foremost, and let's also show the great teachers and school district leaders that get them there. I want to change the focus to looking at the positive components.
I love that. Pete, I've always been a huge fan of you, and you are the biggest cheerleader for teachers, for principals, for guidance counselors, for coaches, for parents, and the biggest cheerleader for students. And we're so fortunate that you're here in Charlotte.
Well, thank you.
And it's always been such a joy to be your friend. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that people will listen to this and really think about what can we in our own community, because it's every community, right? What can we do to help in public education? What can our business, what can we do as a neighbor? What can we do to help?
Well, thank you. Appreciate the time today, and it's been a great way to start my day. Thank you.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.